back here on Just My Opinion, episode 2. And man, what a weekend it was. That was a tough weekend for us, man. I personally want to thank you all for coming to the show. We're excited to have you guys all back for this week's breakdown. Kenny Bell will be joining me here in 20 minutes as we answer you guys' questions. But first, I just wanted to kind of wrap up a little bit of last week's show. I appreciate you guys hanging in with me. That was my first time doing it. I realized I had only had an hour to prep for that show, which is why we have now moved the show to Monday nights. So we're going to be doing it every Monday night, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to go ahead and try and jump in between that window as we wind up for Monday Night Football, but we also want to put the last game to bed and we move on to the next week's game. So I know a lot of the players are already saying they're moving on to Northern Illinois, but I am not. We have a lot to unpack tonight. We have a lot to go through as to what went wrong, what went down, and we're going to go ahead and just start from the beginning. And first of all, the beginning for me begins in 2009. So as we talked about a little bit, I have that much love for the University of Colorado. I hate those guys. So quick story, I was recruited. I'm a Colorado guy. I'm born and raised in Colorado, went to high school in Colorado, and I was actually being recruited to Colorado. And they offered me a scholarship as I was a junior, which I thought was awesome. There was a big part of me that wanted to play and be a Buff and go to Boulder. I went to their junior day. I actually was there when Colorado beat Oklahoma in 2007 at home, and it was one of the coolest experiences at that point in time of my life. I was in the locker room. I was excited. 3 weeks later, I am in my last regular season game for my Bear Creek Bears, go Bears, and I tear my ACL. And as I tear my ACL, I'm thinking that my career in football might be over. I'm just extremely worried that I might never play football again. At that point, I believe I had 11 to 12 offers to play Division I football. And CU, Diane Hawkins, I'll never forget, called me and said, we just need to make sure that we're bringing in guys that can play football, that are ready to play football. So we're going to go ahead and renege your scholarship. And if you think you can play, you can come to our summer camp and we can show you then, and we can see then if that is true you can play, and then we'll reoffer you your scholarship. I live 45 minutes away. You can't just say like, hey, we'll honor that, or hey, we'll come drive to a practice, or we'll come drive to a game and we'll see if maybe that's what you want. Nope, pulled it. So at that point, I pretty much realized, I'm not going to see you. To whereas wind it back, Coach Pelini calls me, says, Jeremiah, if you never play another snap of football again, we will honor your scholarship here at Nebraska. I mean, that just spoke leaps and bounds to the character of what school I wanted to go to. So at that moment, I decided that CU was out, never going back, not doing it ever again. So I made on signing day, we show up to signing day, I've committed to Nebraska, and the local news station is there. And they say, well, hey, why did you go to Nebraska? Why didn't you go to CU? And so I told a very brief version of the story I just told you guys of how I got hurt. They said that they wouldn't honor it. And then I finished with the statement. So I decided I'll go somewhere that I'll just beat them every year. And luckily, guys, I did. I beat them both years I was there. We beat them in Folsom Field. Then they came to Nebraska and we beat them there. And then, unfortunately, we moved to the Big Ten. I would love to have gotten to play those guys every single year. I have no love for CU. My whole family went to CU. I got cousins, I got aunts, I got uncles, all went to CU that were literally upset with me when I went to Big Red. But best decision of my life, won a ton of games. I won more games in 1 year at Nebraska than I won in 4 years at CU. So definitely think I made the right decision on that regard. But this Sunday, this team, the 2019 Huskers, were not as lucky as I was, and they eventually fell down to the fact that CU bested us in the last 15 minutes of the game. So, as we say, let's wind it back. Let's start from the beginning. And as I said last week, there's going to be a segment on this show that every week I'm going to break down the 4 keys to victory that I think are important for every single football. I don't care if it's high school, college, professional. The 4 keys to victory are penalties, rushing yards, third downs, and turnovers. If you can win at least 3 of the 4 of those things, you're going to win the game. Most likely you will win the football game. So, wind it in. Let's look at penalties. We have penalties for Nebraska. So they had 2 penalties. CU had 2 penalties. Little light on the penalties. I thought that there was a lot of uncalled holdings personally on CU, especially in the last few drives. As I went back and watched the game, their tight end, the one with the long freaking hair, he held more than anyone I've ever seen. He was just bear hugging people out there. I mean, it was bad. Mo Berry standing in a hole and he gets basically dragged down from here. So again, I don't like blaming it, but penalties weren't a big thing. Here's where we're really going to dive in. The rushing yards. The rushing yards. Nebraska 179, CU 89. But quick note, the average yard per carry, Nebraska 3.9, CU 2.4. So there's two things here to unpack. Yes, that's a great number. 179, I'll take that. But it wasn't between the tackles. All our rushing yards came from perimeter runs. They came from getting the ball outside the tackle box as quickly as possible, whether that be with Mo Washington, whether that be with Wendell Robinson. And those are things that we have to fix. We have to be able to ground and pound. Question being, who's that back? Who's that back that we hand the ball to and say, fall for 2.5 yards, make it to 3 yards and turn it into 5? That's a question that's going to have to be answered as we go through here. Speaking of questions, guys, this is a live interactive show. I want to be here like I'm having a conversation with you guys in the freaking bar. Like we're just hanging in the bar or we're sitting in the living room. Ask me questions, challenge my ideas. I want to feel what you guys feel for this game and help to see if I can help either shape things that you're unsure of, or if there's things that you saw that maybe I didn't see, and let's just talk about it. Let's discuss. That's the whole idea of this show, guys. The whole idea is you guys show up in full force here live, and we discuss our heartaches, our excitements, and we just go from there. So if you got a question, if you got something that you want, bring it up, throw it in the chat, let's discuss. So as we're going to keep moving forward here, the third downs. Nebraska, 5 for 15, 33%, not a great day. Most of those third downs, guys, came in the second half. They really did, because in the first half, we did a little thing I like to call skipping third down, which is where you have such success on first down and second down that third down's either third and short or you don't even do it at all. So let's continue to work on that. First question comes in from Crazy Legs 15. Do you think Mills is making the most of what he's given, or does he have nothing to work with? I think it's a little bit of both, but I think that speaking with the rushing yards, Mills looks hesitant to me. He looks like he's still trying to find his way, find his groove. And for me, I want him to run with more attitude. I want Mills to be the guy that's going to run you over and he's not going to make you miss in the hole. And I really just want to see him be an attitude back for us, because we have the finesse guy. We have the game breaker, which is Maurice Washington. So I think that Mills, Crazy Legs, I think Mills needs to make more of what he's given, but I also think he needs a little bit of confidence, which comes from bigger holes opened by the offensive line. Back to the third down, CU, 6 of 17, 35%. Great job, Black Shirts. I mean, our defense, guys, was lights out for 45 minutes. And the problem is no one's going to really talk about how great they were for those 45 minutes, because all that matters is the last 15 and overtime. And I will say this, our offense ran 77 plays, and the CU offense and our defense was out there for 92 plays. And there was a question asked about the elevation this weekend, and it's a thing. The elevation was a problem. The elevation is something you have to deal with, and whether they say it or not, I do think it affected them a little bit at the end of the game. So 6 of 17 on third down, we win that. That's a big one. Turnovers, Nebraska has 3, CU has 1. But the one thing, guys, you can't lose the turnover battle. I can't stress that enough. The ball is everything. It's all about the ball. And Nebraska just was careless with the ball, and I don't think that they did a nice job taking care of it. That being said, again, thank you, Black Shirts. They only had 3 points off of those turnovers. Guys, I don't think you understand. That could have been catastrophic with those 3 turnovers. If they would have gone and turned that into 21 points, this is a whole different ballgame. This is a whole different problem. So, again, we talked about it. Penalties, rushing yards, third downs. We only win 2 of those. We lose the game. In order to be successful, you want to win all 4, obviously, but you have to win at least 3 out of those 4. And penalties are things that really, really hurt you on not smart football teams. I'm not saying we're a dumb football team, but good football teams don't beat themselves. And you hear it over and over from Coach Frost. We got to stop beating ourselves. We're our own worst enemy. Got to get out of our own way, which for a lot of the times, that was our problem. We got in our own way. So next question coming in here. Furby Oates, do you think the lack of an inside running game is due to the running backs not battling or the linebackers, or do you think there's issues with the run blocks? I think it's a lot to do with the schemes up front, guys. There's things I see that are called free runners, which are backers, safeties that just seem to be unaccounted for. And again, I am not the coach. I'm not the offensive coordinator. I don't know if those are the read guys. I don't know if those are the RPO guys that are coming free, but there was multiple times in this game that what I would deem as I was watching it as the read guy really became the free runner that made the tackle for 1 yard gain, 2 yard gain, or even a loss. So I think we need to get some stuff ironed out up front. Again, those three interior guys, Higgins, Jurgens, and Bo Wilson, have to play better, but that's because they're not used to playing next to each other, guys. Offensive line is so much about playing together, learning each other, congruency with those guys. They're only going to get better with time. So, the next thing I want to look at as I break down this game is the first drive of the game for offense and defense. And defense comes up first, right? CU wins the toss, and they like to take the ball. Weird. You should always defer. If you're ever a coach or coaching football, basketball, whatever, you always defer. I guess you don't do it in basketball, whatever. But with football, you always defer because you can always double up. So they show right away they're scared of our offense. Regardless of what we showed against South Alabama, they were scared of our offense. They took the ball first, and 15-play drive, guys, 15 plays, and our defense stood up. But it shouldn't have been that. It should have literally been 3 and out. They freaking back them up. We get bailed out with an offensive penalty or an OPI call on the third down, which it was. He ran right into Moberry over the middle. Good call. And then, things that I loved seeing, guys, the pursuit of our defense. They were on their hair on fire. There was 6, 7 freaking white shirts every single tackle, running around, firing, just getting after it. And I love to see that. So they get the first down off of the 3rd and 25. We throw incomplete. It's about to be 4th and 25 on their own 5. And bad penalty by Lamar Jackson. I mean, just not a smart penalty. I'll give him the benefit of that. It seemed loud. By the way, Husker Nation, shout out to you for turning that place red. That made my heart sing. So that was awesome. So it was loud there. So I will say, maybe didn't hear the whistle, but you got to be smarter than that. On the road, you can't do dumb penalties, which he had, which extends their drive. They find some success early. Big 96 Davis brothers coming in with a huge sack to stall that drive, guys. Nothing kills a drive like a sack or a penalty. So that was a huge drive. Forces them to punt. 15 plays. Bend but don't break. That's a killer for the offense. If you're out there for 15 plays and you don't get a single point, that is so disheartening. I've been a part of it. You're out there, you're tired, you're grinding, you're getting third downs, you're moving the ball, and you come out with nothing. Oh, kills you. So, huge shout out to our defense. Make them punt. We get the ball on the 4-yard line with a very bad fair catch by JD on the 4-yard line. That's a big no-no. He won't do that again. I think that's just early in the season mistakes done by him. So we're excited for him. He's electric with the ball in his hand. You want him to take it anytime you can. But that's one of those you just fake the fair catch, let it bounce, let it go over your head. So let's start with the offense. Easy breakdown here, guys. 5 plays, 96 yards, and a tutty. But it's a little bit more interesting when you look at it. When you look at it a little closely, what did Scott want to do with this offense? What did he want to get in a rhythm? What did he want to show right away? 2 things I saw. Get Mo Washington started early. Guy missed all the first half last week or South Alabama. Needed him big time in this game. So we get first 2 plays are to him, and they're big time chunk plays. Around the edge. First one's around the edge. Second play comes in, hands it off inside. Dude gets some good chunks, and then we get to the first empty formation. And that, as I saw that first empty formation, in my head, I started going, this is for Adrian. If you're a quarterback, if you've ever coached quarterback, if you've ever watched quarterback, if you're in an empty formation, the defense has to show their hand. They can't hide anything. You've got too many guys spread out all over the field, and it allows you to see the defense much more clear as a quarterback. So I knew Scott wanted to make sure he could see Adrian what was going on. So he was able to look and see things and move around and do all of that. And it opens up the run game because there's one less guy in the box. There's usually a 4-1 box, 4 defensemen, 4 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker, and you're able to see things clear, and it opens up the run game, which we saw, quarterback run. Adrian looks, hitches, no one there, takes off running with it, first down. And then we come out and empty again. One more time, we give it with empty, and blown coverage, JD wide open, long ball, touchdown. There's the confidence we needed. There's the Adrian Martinez of 2018 that we saw and loved. And guys, we all thought, right? I thought it. I was guilty of it. Like, this is it. Pour it on these guys. Let's roll. and more of that in the first half. And that is what we saw. So those are my things that I do every week, guys. I'm going to break those down. I'm going to look at those, and those are the things that I think are really important. So thoughts, what did you guys see? What did you like? What didn't you like? As we look down here, we have another question from Crazy Legs. I agree on the initial defense intensity, but it seemed to change after the flea flicker. Seems like the team knew we were doomed. I would not say that we knew we were doomed. I don't think at any point this team was like, oh my gosh, it's over. Because it really was never even close to over. The game was so close. Guys, that when you're backed up, it's hard count, and you're going to take shots. That's what you do as an offense. It's what we did in college. If you remember 2013, might have been January 1st, 2014, Gator Bowl, we were backed up. Exact same situation. Max protection, two-man route, Quincy Enunwa, 99-yard touchdown. It's just what you do when you're backed up. You got to take a shot because you have to. There's nothing you can do. Gator Bowl 2014, Q, Kenny Bell in the chat. He remembers. He was there. So it's just what you do. You have to be expecting that as a defense. And I don't necessarily know if we were really expecting that shot play from them. That's just something that you kind of just comes with time. It comes with the more that you're available with it. As a defense, you start to realize, hey, alert to that type of stuff. And the flea flicker guys, they executed it to perfection. There's not a lot you can do sometimes with that. That safety bit on the run, he was half a step away from a sack, and that receiver made a good play on the ball. It's going to happen. It's how do you respond? How do you come back from that? It was a great call by those guys. So one question that I got off, one very common question, I'm going to have Kenny touch on it too when he gets in here, but I wanted to touch on it, is how do you explain the coach teaching the kids not to be afraid of failure, and he turtles in crunch time? How does that message translate to wins and wins on the recruiting trail? I don't think Scott Frost turtled, guys. I watched the tape. I went back and rewatched the game. We ran the same plays that we ran in the first half in that first drive of the third quarter. We just didn't execute. And whether that be a missed block, whether that be poor execution, I mean, you can't come out and take a timeout right out the gate. That's just not something that you can do. It sets a bad tone and a bad taste in your mouth for the rest of the second half. It's just not something that you can do. So we have to execute better. It wasn't the play calling. I really don't think it's an execution thing. So I don't think Coach Frost turtled. I don't think he thought we're playing not to win. Also, I'm going to say this same thing in overtime. Those first two plays, one, poor read by Adrian on play number one. He should pull that ball 10 out of 10 times and he might score right away. Second play, we run an outside zone play to the left. We have two pullers. First puller gets picked off. The second puller doesn't get around. Free hat, free running back to the ball. And then the third play in offense was just a drop back pass. We get beat on a stunt play. So we didn't turtle. I don't think we turtled. I don't think we said, oh gosh, everyone come in, sink in. We're scared. We're not going to be able to do this. I really think that it was just lack of execution on our part. Some other questions that we had coming in. Btran0524 on Instagram says, do you think the pressure coaches put on Adrian is affecting his play? I don't think it's the coaches, guys. It's the media and it's the hype that was around him. You got to remember, he's a young kid. This isn't like a fifth-year senior walking in, been there, done that. This kid's 19 years old. This kid was a true freshman starter last year. He's got a lot on his plate, and all he's heard all offseason was how great Nebraska needs to be. And I talked about it earlier on Chris Schmidt's Hail Varsity show. He has to realize that they're going to lean on him this year. Last year, he had Stanley, he had Ozigbo, he had some guys he could lean on. Those guys are gone. He is now the pillar of this offense. Excuse me. He is now the guys that everyone's going to lean on. And I think he's realizing that. It might have taken him a couple of games, but we will go as far as Adrian Martinez takes us. This offense will go as far as Adrian takes us. And if that means that he takes us 6-6 or whatever it might be, then so be it. But I think he's greater than that. I think he has the option to win 8-9 games. It's still all out there for us, guys. It's still all out there. Yes, this game sucked. It really did. But it's part of it. It's just the way it goes. Also, guys, if you're in here and you've never been to the channel before, if you could hit that follow button up at the top, it would mean a lot to the channel to help the channel grow, help get more exposure. Also, if you have a Twitch Prime sub available, I know I might be speaking a different language to you guys, but that little purple rectangle up there is a subscribe button. If you have an Amazon Prime account, which if you're married, I know you do because your wife has one, or you have one yourself, You can subscribe for free to the channel. It protects streamers. It allows us to have our own content and allows us to do what I'm doing right now, guys. So if you could press that follow button or that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. So we're going to bring Kenny Bell now onto the line. He's going to join us and he's going to answer some questions for us. And it's going to be something that we're really excited about. He needs no introduction. We have Kenny Bell on the line here, guys. He's joining us from Boulder, Colorado. He was there on Saturday. He saw it live. He was ready to go. Kenny, how are you, man? Thanks for joining the show.
Sirles, what's up, brother? You got me? Can you hear me?
Absolutely, buddy.
Good to see you. Good to hear you, brother. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I mean, we're all right. I'm reeling from the loss, but we're doing just fine. Kenny, how are you? You were there on Saturday. I wanted to be there so bad, obviously. Can you let some of the guys that are in the chat here that maybe didn't know or weren't there, what was that atmosphere like? What was it like in Folsom Field on Saturday at kickoff?
Yeah, man. Honestly, that was probably one of the best football atmospheres that Boulder has had since, man, like the blackout when they beat West Virginia on like a Thursday night back, maybe it was 04, 05, somewhere back there. It was incredible with the Husker fans really taking over Boulder like that. A huge shout out to them. But honestly, the Colorado fans really showed out, man. I thought it was going to be a real hostile kind of thing, and it was really just the college kids. Anybody older was real respectful. It was just a great environment, people cheering back and forth, and I was proud to be there, man. I was very proud to not only represent where I was from, but I was proud of Nebraska fans as always, but I was proud of Colorado fans too. They did a good job.
Yeah, man. It looked like a great time. It looked awesome. What was the difference in the flip, I guess, between the feel in the stadium, at least from first half to second half? Could you feel the uneasiness? Could you feel that little bit of panic set in? And do you think that maybe because it was like a home game for Nebraska, that they kind of felt that feeling from the crowd? In the opposite effect, you would think that with that crowd there, you would think that they are going to be hyped up and energetic. But on the flip effect, when things start going bad, do you think that they started maybe feeling a little bit panicked and like, oh my gosh, I can feel that anxiousness in this stadium, and kind of made them clam up as well? Or was the stadium pretty supportive in the whole time?
I think honestly, bro, I think you hit it right on the head. I think that anxiety a little bit got to him, and I'm not in the most negative way, but you know how football is, man. That momentum can be a nightmare, or it can be a blessing. You saw it in the first half with how it was a blessing for us, and how it was honestly a nightmare in the second half. When CU hit that flea flicker, I saw someone comment about did it feel like we were doomed? It didn't necessarily feel like we were doomed, but my goodness, what a call by Coach Johnson and his staff by the Buffs. I mean, you got to give them credit with being backed up like that. Man, that was a good call. We got to give him some credit. We were playing quarters, and when KD Nixon motioned down, I mean, we fell for that. We thought he was coming down to crack the end. We thought that zone read was coming, and they launched it on us, man. It was a great call, and it did. I mean, we were deflated after that, but like, you got to come back. You said it perfectly, how you respond, and they did. We didn't turtle, man. I do disagree with that. I mean, they made the same calls with Coach Held. I'd have the same confidence as Coach Walters did in my running backs with Coach Held as well. They ran the ball well, and you said it well. You said it as well. They ran it outside the tackles. But when Mo had that big breakaway, I mean, I thought we were not only right back in it, I thought we were going to come out and shut them down. So most importantly, it was a fun game to watch. But obviously, man, I wish we would have came out on top.
Absolutely. And Kenny, we got a lot of guys this weekend that asked us questions online, and one of them was from Sal Vista. He says that he's concerned that there was only two true wide receivers catching the ball for Nebraska during the game, Wendell Robinson and J.D. Spielman. And like, what do we need to see out of this group to make the big jump before Ohio State comes to town? I mean, that's in 2 weeks, man. Those guys are coming, and they look good. And we need some help outside. Who needs to step up out of our receivers and make that jump to help so Spielman's not double covered and like all eyes are on Wendell? Like, where are the other guys, and what are you looking out of that receiving group to come out for these next few weeks?
Well, it's hard to say, brother, because we've always had it, and I mean, even when I was in school, we've always had our featured wideout that complements our run game. So I think most importantly, we got to figure it out in between the tackles. And you said it again. You said it perfectly. We're going to get better. Those guys up front are going to get better. It just takes time. But I'd like to see Woody make more plays as a senior. I'd like to see Mike step up and make some plays. It is difficult when I don't want to say you get one-dimensional, but it is. We usually have a feature back and a feature wideout, and they usually complement one another really well. And right now, I think we're struggling with that identity because we can't just pound the football down people's throat. So we're struggling up front with that. But that does it also. That being said, Mustafa is one of the best D tackles we're going to see all
Yes,
year.
that
I mean,
is
that
true.
kid is not a joke. He is a game wrecker. Not only that, 53 Nathan Landman is a real deal linebacker as well. He plays every bit of smash mouth football that a Big Ten linebacker would play. So these aren't the Buffaloes of 2012, 2013. So make no mistake, we got to put some respect on the University of Colorado, and not just treat them like a little brother anymore. They played a good football game. Yeah, I know, but tip your hat. I hear you. Tip your
Uh,
hat to them. They played a good football game, but now let's go get better.
I agree. I mean, I think that this Boulder team is going to be a different team this year. I think they have a chance to win some games. A lot's going to depend on how their quarterback plays. But I mean, they have some weapons at wide receiver. Do
Are you
you?
kidding?
I mean,
Are
they
you kidding
they
me?
really do. And how much do you think that they exposed our DBs a little bit? Are you nervous for our DBs, or do you think that's one of the best wide receiver groups we might see all year?
So let me answer that in two phases because I think
Okay.
they're two different elements, right? So I think our I'm going to put more respect on our defensive backs. I thought Boodle and LJ played pretty well. I mean, they played real well through that first half. But make no mistake, the University of Colorado has the maybe arguably I'll have to look at the rest of the rosters, but the best receiving core that we will see this year.
Okay.
Laviska Shenault, Katie Dixon, Tony Brown, Dimitri Stanley, and I mean that's just their starting. Those are just their four, man. I mean they
Right.
got they got kids playing gunner, Daniel Arias, they got Jalen Jackson. I mean they got dudes
Yep.
in that receiving room. So make no mistake about it. I mean that is a good receiving core, and not to mention. I mean, they're coached by Darren Cheverini and Corday Hankton, which I mean, those dudes know what they're doing on offense. So Coach Johnson at their OC knows what they're doing. Like I said, we gotta tip our hats to them. They played a good football game, but now let's go get better.
Absolutely. And guys, if you're just joining the show, Kenny Bell with us on right now. Ask questions live here. We want to hear your thoughts on the game. We want to exchange and discuss with you guys. The Real Spin asks if the altitude had a negative effect. How much of a positive effect did the crowd have? Any canceling out of the negative positives there? We touched on that a little bit. I talked a little bit on altitude at the beginning of the show. I don't think it had a big effect on them, but I think towards the end of the game, you could see a little bit of the hands on the hips. I mean, Kenny, you're from Boulder. I'm from Colorado. There is a big difference in that altitude. Do you think that that affected our defense at all being out there for 92 snaps, or do you think that they handled it well?
I think the defense handled it really well, man. We put them in some tough spots in the second half. At the same time, altitude will always play um, a difference whether you're a great condition team or not. It's just different going up to play that high. I remember when we went and played Wyoming in I don't
Oh
know,
my
was
gosh,
that
that was
2011?
horrible.
It was brutal. And I was bragging about how I'm from Colorado, I'm not worried about it. It was honestly I had the oxygen mask on in the second quarter. So uh it definitely plays a factor. Now I'm not gonna just say, that was why we lost and we were tired.
Right,
Make no
right.
mistake, we did the same thing when I was in school when we would put the defense in a bad spot and it's hard to dig yourself out. So yeah, we got to move forward from making those little mistakes. And you said it right earlier. Where you say Coach Frost says we got to stop beating ourselves. We're our worst enemy. And man, when you got a head man saying that, he means it wholeheartedly because he knows you can't win doing that.
Yeah, I mean, especially with as young as a team are, a lot of teams that are good can get themselves out of mistakes that they made. And I just don't think the Huskers are there yet. The Huskers can't beat an opponent and themselves. They're just not talented enough, or they're just too young right now. There's teams that can do it. The Patriots do it all the time. They fall behind and then they come through. You see teams like Wisconsin or older teams, but if you think about it, there's
Yeah,
two seniors on this entire offense right now. I mean, they are young.
yeah, I think exactly. I think it comes with the growing pains, and there was a point in the game where we were up so much that we really could have taken over, and it just didn't seem like the Buffs ever really seemed like they were losing. You know what I mean?
Mm,
It more seemed like we were waiting for something bad to happen,
right. Do you think that
and then
comes
that
with
flea flicker happened.
I'm just going to say, do you
Go
think
ahead.
that comes with this team? I've talked on it almost every week now, not knowing how to win. And what I mean by that is that's not something you can coach. That winning mentality of, man, we have them down, we have their pedal on the gas, like let's pour it
Yeah,
on. This team hasn't had a season where they've been like that. They've been 4-8 the last 2 years. They've struggled to win games down the stretch, the close games. what's it going to take for this team to be able to learn how to win and be able to close out these games in the overtime games, the fourth quarter games? Like, what is that going to take for them? And do you think this team can do it this year? Or is this going to be another year of us trying to grind out, trying to figure that out, and then hoping that it just kind of happens?
I think it's both. I don't think it's just hoping that it happens, but I think it comes with grinding it out and having those experiences and learning how to win. We got to remember this is year 2. They're not going to have it all figured out, but I genuinely believe that they're going to get better over time. And I'm reading a comment that says 93 plays had to hurt more than the altitude, and my goodness, yes,
Absolutely. Those
that
boys
is a
were
phenomenal
sore.
point.
Those
Yeah,
boys
I
were
mean
sore.
they're hurting today still. So 93 plays is deep. That's a lot.
Right. Grand Cookies here asks, how do you guys feel about the starting field position? The D really held them, but it ended up in a lot of deep punts. I agree. The offense didn't have great starting field position, but they didn't have great starting field position at the beginning of the game, and it wasn't an option. Nothing's more demoralizing to a defense, guys, when you can go 90-plus yards and score a touchdown.
Oh, man.
I mean, it just crushes the defense, and we did it right from the get. And so I think that the starting field position is, as long as the defense isn't giving up points, I'll take it. I don't know. I mean, that's something that if they're kicking for punts and they're pinning us in the 10, that means the defense did their job. That's a huge thing.
As long as we're keeping them out of the end zone, I mean, it's a huge difference, especially with the kind of weapons we have on offense. We're gonna get it going. I genuinely believe that if we can have the defense flying around like that, then for 4 quarters, and then have the offense starting to fire on all cylinders, we are gonna be good. I think I'm not in full panic mode. I genuinely believe that people do not want to play us. I think we're a tough nosed team, and we're only gonna get better. So I think, it's disheartening. Trust me, I feel it. Try living here.
Oh my gosh, dude, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
flipping modes a little bit, Kenny? What are you doing now? Tell us where you're at, what you're doing. Are you hanging in Boulder? I mean, what is Kenny Bell up to right now?
I actually just it's been a little bit of a tough summer. I lost my big brother in a real tragic accident at the beginning of the summer. 3 days later, I actually ruptured my quadricep tendon and tore my quad from the bone. Yeah. So I had surgery about is actually 8 weeks ago today. So I'm recovering from that. I'm kind of just in Boulder, or I'm in Denver. I have my own spot now, and I'm just kind of focused on recovering physically and mentally for a little bit. I'll be out in Lincoln doing some appearances throughout the season, but I'm just going to take a little time for the rest of the year to really focus on getting healthy, because I'm looking at a good still 7 months out of recovering from my leg injury. So
How did you
just taking a little bit of time.
How'd you manage that, dude?
Yeah, so get this, man. So yeah, you're gonna love the Husker
right.
Nation's gonna love this story.
Sit in, guys. Strap in.
Yeah, you guys are gonna love this one. It's a good one. So 3 days after, my niece asked me to go swimming with her. Her dad had just passed, so I said, of course. We're swimming in the pool. She asked me to jump off the diving board. I jumped off the diving board a couple times. Now she goes, "Now KB, jump as high as you can." So trying to be a good uncle and entertainer. I go to jump, and I gather as I come down. You jump,
Yep.
you jump twice.
Yep.
So on my second jump, I come down like to go jump as high as I can off this diving board. And I mean, this is an old school diving board. I mean, it's got some spring to it. I slipped off the right side. My right leg slipped off, so my left leg just absorbed the entire jump, and my leg just exploded. It was so bad.
Did you at least
so
jump
I
really high?
No, it stole my entire bounce. So stole my bounce, and then I just backflopped into the water. My other brother pulled me out of the water, and it was a quick trip to the ER and then surgery about 8 days later. So brutal.
That's tough, man. Well, we all are wishing you a speedy recovery. All Husker Nations got your back, but it looked like you were up moving around pretty good at the game.
Yeah, I'm good at smiling through some stuff.
I feel you.
I was feeling all right.
I love it. Well,
I'm an idiot. It was actually probably I went to fan day like 4 days after surgery. Actually,
oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, why would you do that to yourself?
Because I made a commitment to be out there, and I love the Scurs. I wasn't just gonna fail on them.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's get back to some questions here. We have Twitter, Black Shirt America asks, what's the best explanation for our defensive pressure in the first half? I think a lot of it was the fact that we were able to get a lot of push without blitzing. As I was coming back and watching the game, I was watching our front four, and we do a lot of line stunts. We go back and forth, and we look at that. And Kenny, I'm going to let you talk a little bit on our back end of what you saw from our safeties and our corners. But how was the coverage? Were they tight coverage, or were they kind of playing off, or were they disguising things well? As I'm trying to learn more about the back end of the coverages, that's something that I want to know more about. But I know you were definitely looking at that, looking at our DBs, how they were playing those receivers. What was the success that had in the first half that we then fell off on the second half for? Was it something they did, something we did? Kind of, can you carry on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought in the first half we did a better job being a little bit more physical at the line of scrimmage with two.
Hmm.
Uh, Laviska's a really good talent, and once I thought they had to kind of get away from trying to get into the ball and to put him more into the wildcat to kind of force his way into converting third and short or second and medium. I liked that aspect. I thought we got away from that a little bit in the second half. I thought we playing a little bit off coverage. I thought we were playing a little bit I don't think safe, but we knew that we didn't necessarily have to get the same pressure. So I thought
Right.
I don't know if the game plan necessarily completely changed, but I thought we definitely the tempo definitely changed in the second half.
Yeah, I would happen to agree with you there. I think that a lot of things changed for us in that second half, and a lot of it had to do. I want to give credit to the offensive coordinator for CU. He came out with great adjustments. He went to the quick passes because he
Yep.
saw that we were getting home on those stunts up front, guys. The line stunts were getting home. We were beating those guys. How do you beat line stunts? You get the ball out of the quarterback's hands fast. 3-step
Yep.
drops, slants, hooks, curls.
Quicker.
And that is demoralizing to a pass rush. If you're a defensive lineman and you're trying to run a stunt where you pick the guard and the DN comes around, and by the time you're turning the corner on your stunt, the ball's already gone. It's a lot of hands up. Why am I doing this? And so I think that was a huge point that they made, and then also realizing that they're not going to make. I mean, our defensive line is massive, guys. If you really look at it across the board, you got the Davis
Yeah.
brothers, you got the Daniels
You got some
brothers,
boys.
you got
Our
Stilly
front
in there.
seven.
Our front seven is solid, and so I think they
Yep.
realized we got to get outside, and so credit to them for that. But I think that the first half you saw a lot of what we were doing and them dictating to what we were doing. Second half, they flipped the script completely on us, guys, and they coached really well, made great adjustments, and so I think that that's really the difference between the first half and the second half, guys. As we get back to some more questions here, we're gonna go back to some of
I
the ones that we
yep.
got. Um,
Yeah, just to
oh,
not to interrupt,
no,
but yeah,
please,
just to
always
exact
jump in.
no, just what you said, man. I think it's important to. I mean, even when we were in school, I think it's important to pay respect to those guys. I mean, in loss or in defeat and in victory, man. Like they did a good job. That staff, Coach Tuck kept that Buffalo team calm and thinking they could win the football game, and they made the adjustments to go do it. So again, I mean, hats off to them. But now I definitely want us to focus on getting a lot better because you're right. Our front seven is nothing
Mm-hmm.
to joke about. We got some dudes up there. We got a quarterback that I genuinely believe will be making a trip to New York in the coming years. And I think we got receivers and running backs that can make plays. We just got to start firing in all cylinders. And I think we just need to be patient and give them a little bit of time.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you on that aspect. One thing that people were talking about this weekend, I saw a lot of this, is where it says everyone just needs to massively lower expectations. 8-9 wins for this team is too optimistic. I don't think that's still
I
too
hate that.
optimistic, guys.
I
I
hate
think
that.
I agree. I think we have a ton. I mean, yes, we lost to a good Colorado football team, and that sounds like puke coming out of my mouth as I say it, but they were, guys. They were not a terrible football team. Yes, it's a first year head coach, and we can make excuse after excuse, but they were a good football team. They had solid players and they had a good game plan around us, and they made plays when it counted. And that's what it comes down to. But just because we lose them does not mean we can't go win 8-9 games this year, guys. It's not the end of the world. We can still. Mo
Yep.
Berry had a quote in his press conference today saying, "No one's going to care about this game. We're playing the Big Ten championship," and people blew it out of mind. Like, no, people are going to care. But that's just them saying like they're not. This isn't a career ender or a season ender for these guys.
It's
They
definitely not.
understand that. I personally still
Yep.
think we can go win 9 games this year. Kenny, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all out there for us. And if you don't on I mean if you really don't, what are you doing? You know?
Right.
Like I'm not trying to like if you especially from the players, what do you want them to say on the Monday presser? You want them to come in there and say, yeah, who knows what's gonna happen for the rest of the season? I think I think when the fans, and this is what's so great about Husker Nation. Honestly, there's the boo birds and the people on Twitter and all that nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
but the overwhelming love and support for this team. I mean, look at what we had won 2 games last year, and it was sold out at the end of the season.
Right.
So don't like that's not lost on the players. That's not lost on any of the alumni. What makes Husker Nation so special is the outgoing and outpouring love and support, and the players know that, and that's why we fought our our asses off to win football games for our university and our community, and that's exactly why Mo Berry said what he said today. He genuinely believes that they can go win uh, a Big Ten championship, and that's what I love about him. And he's radiating the same energy because I genuinely believe that his head man believes that too.
Grant Cookie, you just nailed it on the head in the chat. She says first half Nebraska can beat anyone. And I completely agree. You throw that first half Nebraska out there against the best of the best, and I really do think that that they can beat anyone. Oh, my wife chimes in here. She says, "What do you have confidence that our players and coaches can adjust and flip a switch if needed? I feel like things are going bad. They just need to go bad and hold our breaths, hoping we can survive." You and I can both attest to that. Sometimes stopping the bleeding is hard. And good teams know how to do it. And even with the teams that we had where we won 10 games, there was games where we walked into Ohio State and literally got the shit beat out of us. It was bad. I mean, it was so bad. And so having that nonsense is going to happen. It's going to be part of it, but the good teams find ways to stop the bleeding. And this team's still trying to find those ways. And I think they do a pretty good job of it. There was multiple times last year, even in the first year head coach, where it could have gotten ugly. And the Michigan game, it did get ugly, and they got a taste of that. But as they grew, as they went farther down the season, they stopped the bleeding. And so I really think that it's important for them to pull back and just kind of fall back on what they know. And what they know is just being big, strong, tough guys. You look at Nebraska's sideline, there is not a small guy over there. I mean, they're all huge. I mean, if you walk through that weight room, they're all squatting 900 pounds, and it's terrifying. So I think they need to fall back on that, and that's the way that we, as fans, can be like, okay, we know that they're just going to settle in and not flip that switch, but fall back on what they know. Question for Kenny here. Your quote about following Bo into the gates of hell was an all-time quote. Was that off the cuff or premeditated?
Yeah, no, that was off the cuff. I was just trying to think of what would be the worst place to fall to who would want to fight there. So
it'd be pretty terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I did mean that too. I mean it to this day. I think those guys would say the same thing about Coach Frost. There's just something special about college football and the bond that guys have with one another and with their head man. I mean, look at us right now. What is 5 years ago that?
Yep.
6 years ago that you graduated and played. So,
let's go a little bit deeper on that. There's guys that we had questions that said, like, is Scott Frost the man to bring back Nebraska football? Guys, every player, I've never seen a player that's played for this guy say one bad thing about him as a person, but even more as a coach. I mean, the guy is a genius when it comes to offensive football, and he's surrounded himself with guys that are going to help him complete his team. So, yes, absolutely, I think Scott Frost is the guy that's going to lead us to the return to glory speak, or the fact that we're going to be competitive. But I just think because of the success he had at UCF, and because of what he was able to do so quickly there, that became the expectation. That's not a realistic expectation at a Power 5 school. It just isn't. Guys, we don't have
Agreed.
We don't have the ability to just flip a switch and be like, "Oh yeah, we have the athletes, so we're just going to make it work." No, a lot of turnover on this roster.
Absolutely no disrespect to the kids that are playing, but we're just not going to turn it around in a year and a half and beat Ohio State with and say we've got the same kind of talent. It just, that's not a disrespectful thing. That's just the reality. So we just got to be patient, let the kids develop, and let Coach Frost develop his own squad.
How much does this... Hold on. Go ahead.
So I'm seeing a question that said that he's seeing people that are, or former players saying that it hurts more watching games now if we lose than it did while we played. I might have to agree with that.
Dude, 100%.
It's tough because, and hear me out here, because when you're playing week to week, you got to fire up. You're like, all right, who we got? There's no time to be like, oh man, to really.
Yes.
At least I didn't. Yes. I didn't. Okay, open the whole schedule and really start to look at it and try and dissect every single game that we got up or compare scores that happened that weekend. I think it just as a fan, like just being a diehard fan now,
Yep.
it's hard to dissect every part of the game and what we've got upcoming and trying to compare and contrast. So that's a good question. I like that one.
I think a lot of it too, especially for me, is the lack of control. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. As if something breaks or if something goes wrong in your life, what do you want to do? You want to fix it. You want to make sure you
Fix.
you got everything back in order to where when you play, it's like you said, you don't have time to dwell on it, but you learn from the mistakes of the game, you fix it and move on. As a
Yep. You
fan,
go get right.
as a
Yep.
fan or as a former player, you look at it and you just scream like "fix it," and that's about that's as much as you can do. That is the
Exactly. You might as
extent
well
of
be,
your
yeah,
control, and that's the
just
hardest
screaming
part
into
for
a
me,
vacuum.
dude. Yeah, I mean, I screamed at my television set for 2 hours the other day,
Literally,
and it did nothing. And so for me, that's the
man.
hardest thing is it's the lack of like control of like how do I fix this? How do I bring it back? So, um, looking at it again, it says Hoken11 here says what needs to happen to get the defensive to tackle better. That was a point that we were going to need to discuss was the down the stretch, the fact that the tackles were missed and they were big tackles. They didn't look like huge missed tackles, but they led from something that would be 2nd and 8 to 3rd and 1. And so it's just it's tough for those type of things to happen. I think the big thing is our defense is so aggressive. I mean, they are a shot out of a cannon, and they're going to shoot their shot, and they might miss every now and then. But there is times when you're playing these bubble screen receivers where they got to break down because when you're playing a talent like CU had, they can make you miss and they can hurt you, and they did. So I'm not raising the alarm. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button on the tackle issue. I think we're doing just fine. I think we're a more improved tackling team than we have been in the last 3-4 years. It started last year, but I mean, Kenny knows it. The athletes are getting better on the offensive side, guys. I would never want to go try and tackle any of those grays. They're crazy. They're freak athletes out there. So I think I give a little bit of reprieve, but there are certain tackles that we need to wrap up and we need to continue with. Kenny, as we're wrapping up here, there's a couple questions here that were very specific for you. For example, we now know that you're hurt, but was there any interest in playing in the XFL? Was that something that was at all on your mind before this injury?
No, I was done. When I went down to play in that Alliance of American Football League, I had really known that my career had wrapped up in the NFL. I had three years consistently or of being injured.
Mm,
You know, at 27, I knew coming out of that alliance, like if I was going to a camp, I would be a straight camp body, and trying to demand that of my mental and physical health just wasn't going to happen. So I went down there to honestly have some fun, play with DP, play with Bando, play with you guys that I loved and
mm-hmm.
just enjoy it. So when I had finished at the Alliance, I had actually just retired during the summer and had taken a break. And right after, I mean, it had been a month after that, or a month and a half, where I had that tragedy strike
Yep.
with my brother and then my leg.
Yeah. Well, as again, we appreciate you having on. Final thoughts for the game. What's your thoughts? Also, give us a prediction on what you think the rest of the season looks like for the Huskers.
Obviously, final thoughts is disappointment. I really wish we could have pulled that one off. I'd been waiting years to be in Boulder. I wanted to be playing, but watching the Skurs. But and obviously again, tip of the hat to the Buffs. But I am very optimistic about this team, about this coaching staff, and as always about our culture. So I think we just hang in there, Husker Nation. We're gonna keep getting better. It's not the end of the world. Just we'll be all right. Just hang in there. We're gonna keep getting better. And have faith in our head, man. That's what I got. That's what I got for you.
Awesome. Well, do you have a prediction on next week? What we can look for this offense to look better, look worse? What do they need to fix next week to come out and look like the offense we know they can be?
I would like to just see more consistency. Or you said it perfectly. We got to win the turnover battle, which means protecting the football. I'd like to see number 2 make better plays with better decision making, which I have faith in him to do. And I'd like to see Wandale keep getting loose. I like that kid. He's fun to watch. So those are some things I'd like to see. And I'd also like to see JD have a 100-yard game. I'm really cheering for 10 to blow up and have one heck of a year. So I think that they just gotta start firing on all cylinders, and they'll start getting it together here quick.
Absolutely. Kenny, I thank you for coming on, man. This was a blast. We will definitely have you on soon. Best of luck in your recovery, man. Let's get some Fortnite games in, or Apex. I know. Let's get some of those games in soon. Lincoln Edits says hello, by the way. He's been blowing up my chat.
Oh,
Here.
yeah.
He wants to make sure to
Yeah,
tell you
Lincoln
hello.
Edits.
So
What's up, buddy?
Toby, I just told that story today, the Lamborghini Mercy story, Tobe. So,
Yeah, legend.
legendary. So, Kenny, we appreciate you coming on. We'll catch up soon, buddy. Get healthy, and let's talk soon.
All right, buddy. Hit me up soon. I'll talk to you.
Will do. Love you, buddy. See ya.
Love you.
That was Kenny Bell as he joined us on the Just My Opinion show here, and great stuff from him. He's a great guy, one of my favorite guys in college, and he has a lot of love for CU. You heard he was there at the game with them, and great stuff from him on the back end of things that he looked at, things that he saw, things that we're going to look at for more, and a lot of echoing the same stuff, guys. Us former players, we look at it and it eats us alive when we lose these games because we love this team now as much as you guys did. And as a player, I didn't always fully understand that. I didn't always fully understand how much Husker fans loved Husker football, but as we grow up and we become families of our own and we pledge our allegiances to a Big Red, I can see why you guys are the best fan base in the world because it means so much to you, because it means so much to me, and I get it, and I thoroughly appreciate all of Husker Nation for that. So as we wrap up the show here, I just wanted to go some key moments in the game that I thought I have to touch on because they were game-changing moments, guys. And I want to finish talking about the overtime. I want to finish on that. So the Bo Wilson chop block, it's something that's not going to show up in the stat sheet. It's something that's not going to really be big, but that was the turning point for me in that third quarter. Right at the end of the third quarter, Maurice Washington goes on a long run, and this was a pivotal run because it was going to lead to points, hopefully. But that Bo Wilson chop block was a good block, but it's illegal now. I didn't know that. And so that was a huge turning point because that then we punted after that, which then led to the flea flicker. So complementary football, guys. Offense helps the defense helps the offense, and special teams helps both. And I thought that was another one. And then the other key points the key moments in the game that I just want to finish up with here as we put this game to bed was the 3 plays in overtime. There's a lot of talk on the play calling. There's a lot of talk on what should have been, what shouldn't have been called. And I talked about it earlier, but I'm going to finish with it because it is very important. It was not the play calling's fault. People are like, why did we run the ball 3 times in a row or 2 times in a row when we know we had a bad kicker? Because those are good plays, guys. Those were just good plays, poorly executed. I've watched the tape twice now. I've looked at it because I wondered the exact same thing. They were just poorly executed plays. Adrian should have pulled it. We missed a block and then a simple twist game. The other thing, I'm going to talk a little bit on the O-line here as we end up. Guys, there was a lot of good things from the O-line. There's a lot of negative press going on right now, but the O-line for the majority of that game played their balls off, and they protected Adrian. And the thing that we're going to see now, and a lot of people saw it, is we got beat with some line stunts. Line stunts are hard to pick up, especially when you're in a passing situation. But the thing is now, we've opened the can of worms. And the only way to stop the bleeding on that and the only way to put the worms back in the can is to start knocking stunts in the face, which CU did to us. When CU realized what it was, and how do you do that? You pick it up and you do short passing game. We don't need the home run strikes. The offensive line right now does not need to hold on and have Adrian sit back there for 4.5, 5 seconds. That's not the recipe for success. Right now, that offensive line needs to protect him and pick up the stunts by using their hands, getting off the ball, and just playing with each other. That's so much. You can only emulate game time stunts during game time. You can't do it in practice. It's near impossible. But the more they play together, again, new group this year, new insides, they'll get better at it. They really will. And Furry Oats says, you said the O-line has to learn to play together. Does that come from coaching, or does that come from the center have to take up the leader role and push forward? It just comes from reps. There's no way around it. Reps. And as they get more reps, as they become more known, and as they become better, you're going to see huge jumps there. And I expect to see big things out of them this week. Coach Austin is a great coach. A lot of respect for him. I know he's going to have those guys right. I know he's going to work those guys, and they're going to come out firing all cylinders. So the last thing I want to do is talk about the O-line's pass protection is don't triple team the nose guard. If they rush 3 guys, it happened multiple times. They would drop the 2 guys, and then both guards would come smash the nose guard, leaving those 2 tackles on those DNs by themselves. We need to fix that. Don't leave those tackles out on an island because that's where a lot of the pressure was coming from. So we got to fix that and also get ready for the delayed blitzes. Those delayed blitzes where they're coming at us late was an adjustment by them made at halftime, and it worked. Coach, our right guard would look at the linebacker. He would look like he was dropping. He'd bail and then shoot, which then got Adrian off his spot. So just little things, but technique-wise, fundamental-wise, it's there. My good friend Ike Bucker jumps in the chat. Hawks versus Nebraska score prediction 45-7 is my early one. I love you, but that's not how it's going to happen. I think that Nebraska beats Iowa this year. Actually, I know it. I'm calling it right now. Nebraska beats Iowa. You can clip it, put it up wherever. I love it. I think that they're going to beat it because I'm so sick and tired of hearing about Iowa. But that's the thing on the O-line. The last thing I want to talk about, guys, is next week. What do we need to improve on? What are things that we need to go forwards with? And I think that the big improvements we have to go this week are a couple things. The inside running game, more yards on first down. Successful first downs lead to successful third downs. So if we can get more fourth downs if we can get more 4 yards to 5 yards on first down, it's going to put Adrian in a better spot. The other thing is our tackling. Kenny and I touched on it. Tackling is going to be really important when we start playing these teams with really, really talented backs, really guys that can really hurt you with the ball in their hands. And then the last thing is that we have to just keep learning how to win. And you only learn how to win by doing it. There's no way around it. The only way you learn how to win is by putting your foot on a team's throat when you have them down and you just do it. And it's a feeling. It's a sense of feeling. And it's just something that you know how to do over and over and over again. As we have guys that come in here, Home of the Whopper comes in. Crude, I just saw this discussion on the lack of push in the middle of the line. We touched on it. The last thing I want to talk about is they just got to play together more, guys. That's all it needs to be. So, guys, thank you so much for joining the episode 2. I felt like this one was a lot more fluid because I had a little bit more time to prepare. So thank you guys for hanging in with me here. Game balls of the week as we end it on this. Game ball on defense goes to Will Honus. The guy was everywhere. Our linebacker core is special, and they're just going to keep getting better. On offense, Mo Washington. That guy's a game changer. He really is. He's things that he can take it to the house every time he wants to take it to the house. So those are my 2 game balls. I'm going to give those out every week, win or lose, because there are guys that are playing really good ball right now. There are things that are just going to keep getting better. And this team's young. Give them time. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button, not time to hit the eject button. I really think that there's going to be 8-9 wins for this season. And I really, really think that Nebraska is on the rise. Despite the tough losses, we learn, we get better, we continue. Guys, if you're new here, please hit a follow. Hit that little follow heart on here. It helps grow the channel. If you have a Twitch Prime, subscribe. Please subscribe. It protects channels, allows us to do things like this. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can do it for free. If you missed the show, if you just joined, best of luck. But we'll have it on YouTube, so you can go catch it on YouTube. You can discuss with us. And then also, next week, we have a guest, Luke Gifford, the newest Cowboy, will be joining Just My Opinion next week as we break down Northern Illinois and hopefully a Husker win. So, guys, thank you for joining me. We will get better. The sky is not falling. Go Big Red. And again, remember, this is just...